So back to SketchUp itself and the Plant25 interface. So I'm obviously on a Mac. If you're a Windows user, it will look slightly different, but it works in exactly the same way. There are no differences. For Windows users, you will see a floating toolbar. It looks very similar to this icon floating around your screen once you've downloaded it. Mac users, you'll need to right click on your toolbar, click on customize toolbar, and then that will show you all of your tools and extensions that you have downloaded, including Plant25, and all you do is drag that up onto your toolbar, and there is the shortcut for you. You can also access it on both systems by using the Plant25 link in the extensions drop down menu. Simply just click on open Plant25 and that will show you this dialog here. So there are quite a few changes and additions to this version of the software. First of all, we'll have a look at the cog icon on the top right hand corner of the main dialog, which, as you can see if you're familiar with it already, looks a lot different to how it has done in the past. So first of all, the appearance. We have two options for you, so how the extension looks on your screen. There's a dark option, which is what you can see at the moment, but we can change that to light if you prefer. It just makes it a little bit easier on the eye if you're working in bright daylight conditions, or at night you can chop and change between the two. Just through experience of doing these sessions, I'm going to flick it over to dark because it makes it a lot easier for people to see on this screen as I'm presenting it. Below that you have symbol style. Now we'll come back to that properly later on, but you'll see we have two options. We have plain and we have graphical. If I quickly go back to the other model that I had open, you'll see an example of a graphical planting plan, but we're going to demonstrate using the plain circles for now, but you can flick between the two and you then have the option as to how you actually want to present your plans within the extension. So we'll come back to that a little bit more later on. Further down you have the plant list and the word previews, which currently is ticked. Now you'll notice, particularly existing users of the software, we now have images of plants sitting next to their record within the main dialog. These can take up quite a lot of space if you have an older machine and you're struggling to use the extension because of the amount of information that's being added there. You can choose to turn those previews off, and that will give you a plant symbol for whatever category of plant the plant is. So you can see at the top we have a shrub symbol, there's a tree one there. If I scroll a bit further down, you'll see that we've got some for perennials, we have some for annuals, we have some for biennials, climbers, grasses, ferns, bulbs, all the categories that you would expect to have their own symbol, so that you can easily see what's what if you don't have an image applied. Now Plant25 doesn't come with these images. The reason for that is the cost and logistics of producing these images and supplying them to users would be extortionate, and it's one of the reasons I'm able to keep the price of the extension so low. You're able to add your own very easily, which I'll demonstrate to you a little later on. But for now, you can see how the extension will work with those plants applied. So if we go back to the settings cog, further down we have a new option called placement, and the option to snap to plants. So in the existing versions of Plant25, or the earlier versions of Plant25, by default, each of your plants as you place them, which you'll see later, will snap to another instance of that plant to ensure that your placement is correct. Particularly if you're going to be using the graphical option, you might not want to have that selected because some of the graphical options make it look like there are gaps between the plants when in fact there aren't in real life. So having that switched off means that you're able to place your plants wherever you like. You do run the risk of having them too close together if you're not careful, but that option is there for you should you wish. Below that you have a section called Z-axis and the ability to place on face. Now, one of the past issues that we have with Plant25, which is an issue in SketchUp in general, is that if you have two faces of two objects trying to occupy the same space, they will fight against each other because SketchUp doesn't know which of those two faces takes priority. So in real life, two objects can't occupy exactly the same space. In SketchUp they can, so therefore SketchUp will make a judgment call as to what it thinks you want to see, or it will give you a kind of shimmering effect, which most SketchUp users will be familiar with. Place on face now, well, actually, sorry, by default, Plant25 will now place plants at 3mm above the ground. So if you have the face of a bed or something in the background and you still want to have the colour applied, or just keep that face for whatever reason, now when you place your plants, they won't merge with the background. They will sit slightly above the ground and you will be able to see everything. Place on face allows you, if you are creating planting plans on a 3D model. So for example, you have a raised bed with a face above that, above the ground. If you were to have place on face switched off and place a plant on top of that bed, it would still sit at 3mm above the ground plane. So you wouldn't be able to see it because the bed would be in the way. If you have place on face switched on, it means that you can click on that top face and your plant will be automatically applied 3mm above that face, so you'll be able to see it. Most designers I envisage, including myself, design in 2D, so it's not really an issue, but some don't, so therefore it's there for you, should you wish. Below that, you've got some basic options. You have refresh library. Won't need to do that very often, but it's there if you ever do. Details about your subscription, so you can see what product you have, what version you have, what your license key is, when it runs out, and when it was last checked. There's also a link to help and support, which will take you to the help page on Plant25. And this is the help center, which you can see is very, very comprehensive. It explains how everything works, and you can navigate through that in the way that you would expect. Let's go back to SketchUp. And then one other option at the bottom, check for updates. As I say, if you have the new version, it will tell you straight away each time you log in that there's a new update available, if there is. But if you want to just double check, you can click on check for updates and it will tell you. And below that is another link to the help center. So that's the new cog inside the main dialog of Plant25.